Welcome back to the Lipoedema podcast. We are your host, Shell.
And Tiana, and tonight we are joined by a special return guest, and you may recognise her from Instagram as Healthy Charlotte. It is Charlotte Phelps. Nice for you to join us tonight, Charlotte. I just lost my train of thought because I was so excited.
No, thank you so much for having me back. It's very exciting to be welcomed back on the podcast for the second time around.
We love having return guests because our lives can change so quickly, and it's good to keep up to date. So with saying that, since we last spoke, has anything changed in the way that you're managing your lipedema?
Okay, so obviously life gets in the way always. So for me, I fell off the bandwagon a bit with my lipedema recently, just going through some personal sort of stuff, life. So really, I'm just trying to get back on track. Just trying to get more of my head in focus. It's one of those things where life can just throw things at you, and then food becomes, the end of what you actually think about. So fallen off the bandwagon a bit with anti-inflammatory diets, but I'm just trying to get back on track with like a good mindset. I'm still exercising and maintaining an overall good diet, but I really do need to get back into the swing of things. But yeah, overall, nothing's really changed too drastically. We're just sort of kicking it going at the moment. So yeah.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Like life can get in the way. Like even with really good intentions, it doesn't take much for us to go, oh, wait, I didn't get to that today. Oh, yeah, look, I'll just enjoy the birthday cake. I'll do this. And then before we know it, it's like, why am I so swollen? And it can be super tricky. 100%. So you were working,
always,
you're studying?
Yes. So I'm studying health science still. I've got, hopefully by the end of this year, I will be done and I will be qualified. So that's pretty exciting. So just trying to do all little background things as well, just so when I am qualified, I can just get straight into the swing of things and really help our lipedema community out because we really do need the help. So yeah, hopefully it's all going to piece together by the end of this year, and I won't even know myself, I don't think.
Yes, finishing studying sure does free up some time, doesn't it? But you're doing it the right way. Like you're getting some of those things in place already, because there's nothing worse than getting to the end and going, okay, so now I've got this mountain of stuff I've got to do before I can start my new career. Awesome.
Yep.
And
oh yeah,
you
it's
were
very
writing
scary.
a book?
But yes, so I am writing like a little lipedema book. So it's still a work in progress. I'm trying to formulate something that's not too complicated. So I want it to be something that's easy with meal prep, but also just easy in general to follow, because I don't know about you two, but I know with myself, anything to do recipe wise, if there's too many steps or it isn't meal prep friendly, I just won't I won't stick to it. So it's great in hindsight to go, yep, I'm doing this book, but it's actually proved to be very time consuming. So I just want to really create something that's maintainable. So hopefully within the next 2 months, I want to say 2 months, hopefully maybe 1 month, it'll be all completed and then I can get it all out there ready and advertise it. So it's really exciting for me.
Oh, that is exciting for us too.
Yes.
I was so excited when those 4
Yes,
ingredients books launched years ago. How good were they?
Oh
my gosh. They're just amazing. And even we only recently bought a slow cooker and we've used it for the last 4 weeks straight. That's just all we're using. So I'm trying to implement things like if we can put it in the slow cooker, even better. Just minimal time so then we'll actually eat the food that we enjoy but is good for us as well.
Yeah, the less steps, the better. I'm like you. When I look at the recipe and it's like pre-sear and then cook and then put in the oven to finish off and then reduce, and I'm like, please help me. I'm just going to put snags on the barbecue.
Yes. I agree.
Yeah. Not too many steps. All right, so we've spoken about what you're up to in regards to your lipedema management and your study. Now let's switch to your modelling. So you're a freelance model, is that right? And how does that work?
Okay, yes. So I am a freelance model. So I'm actually through an agency called Freelance Modeling, which is in itself is amazing. So like the title suggests, it's freelance modeling. So I can say yes or no to jobs that come up through the agency. But I can also be contacted directly through my Instagram. So if a brand reaches out to me and they want to work with me, either that be on a photo shoot or doing online content, and they can reach out to me without having to go through the agency as such. So it opens up a window of opportunity for me to be able to work with a diverse range of different companies as well. But it's also something that I can reach out to them directly and say, hey, I love your stuff. I'd love to get involved. So it's really opened the doors for me as well. But in saying that, the agency itself that I work through, they put on a bunch of workshops for us and portfolio days for us just to really help us grow and gain that confidence and get that really diverse profile out there for us. So yeah, it's probably the best step that I've done in terms of my modeling career, because it's helped me feel confident in front of that camera. Like, it's all well and good to say, yep, put me in front, but in that direct moment, it's a lot. And it really can depend on the atmosphere on the day. It can be amazing, and the girls that you work with or the team that you work with can be great, or you could be put on with a team that don't have a lot of experience in modeling, or they don't know how to direct as such. So you need to build that confidence yourself to be like, yep, I'm happy to jump on set, I'm happy to guide, and I'm happy to do my own thing because I know what works for me. So yeah, it's quite different, but it's really fun, and I really do enjoy doing it.
Yeah, like modeling is so different. Like Tiana and I had our first modeling gig a couple of weeks ago, and like it's so different from taking a selfie and like taking photos of your family to being in a studio. And I don't know, my body was hurting just from trying to turn the right way for the camera, and it's like it's an art form.
Nobody tells
Like,
you that. Yeah. Yeah.
so
And the
yeah.
positions you have to hold that transfer to camera better aren't natural positions that we would hold in everyday life. So we're, trying to look natural, look like, oh, we just do this all the time, but you're contorting your body in weird ways just so that it translates.
Yeah.
It's very strange. And we were very we were novices, and I was thinking of you when we were there on the day. I'm like, gosh, how does Charlotte do this? Like, professionally, to know how to face and to know what, poses to pull and to give diversity to the camera. Because there would be a couple of occasions where our photographer would say, we'll do something else now. And I'm like, I'm out of ideas. Like, that's all I've got.
Yeah.
Look this way, look that way. Arm hip, arm not hip. That's my entire
The default move, isn't it? No, I think
pretty much.
it's something that like my manager had said to me, the more uncomfortable you are, the better the shot's going to be. So I'll be sweating in a position, but I know it's going to get over the line every time. But yeah, it is a workout in itself, really. Like, especially with having lipedema. Like, I don't know about you two ladies, but at the end of every shoot, like, I need to put my legs up because it's painful, and it's like, how can you be so pain? Like, how can you be in so much pain? You've just been getting your photos taken. It's like, oh, you just don't understand. It's hard work.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
my
the
hips were
like
killing me.
being on one leg or having most of your weight, having most of your weight on one leg, as Shell said, like the hips and the glutes really have to work.
Yeah, they have to work. You don't have to go to the gym.
All right. So, what
No, you're
has
right.
your experience been working with fashion brands and their acceptance of larger bodies modeling their clothes?
Great question. It's definitely hard, and there's definitely still limitations for my body personally. There are a lot of brands that still want to have that perfect plus size body within the industry, and they want to perceive that that's what it looks like. So, it's still a case of, I don't have a flat stomach, I don't have a tiny waist. So they do look at that, and I feel like I do get knocked back a bit. It's not until it becomes trendy, or if there's a bunch of brands that are jumping on board, that then they go, oh, actually, we need someone that looks like you, and it's more of a sense of, them ticking a box. So it is quite difficult, but in saying that, there are some amazing brands out there that have been able to jump on board and just have a range of inclusive body types. And I'll just jump to the opportunity to be able to work with all of those brands, because they're the ones that are really getting us out there and showing that it's okay to have big legs and not have a flat stomach and still be seen in the industry. So it has been quite difficult, but yeah, in saying that, I'm just pushing forward, and if I do get knocked back, I know that there's going to be a better brand that's going to align with me, and that's all I'm about.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right, because even though there's a plus size industry, it's still, you've got to still fit certain dimensions of what they want. And like you said, flat stomach, small waist. Um,
Hmm.
small, what am I trying to say? Like face. Like,
Yeah,
not having a
no
chubby
three
face.
chins, no
Like
too
they still want, yeah, they want
yeah,
a thin looking face with curves in the right
yeah,
places. So yeah, that's
yes,
another hurdle, I guess. Like there's so many facets to modeling, and especially plus size modeling as well. And so
yeah.
when it
Oh,
comes to,
100%.
like you
And
said, you go.
oh, sorry. No, I was just going to say there are some amazing, there are some amazing girls that do look like me that are absolutely killing the game within modeling, and there's some that do have lipedema, and you know, just watching them is just a perfect example of if brands can take on them, brands can take on more people like us. So it'll just be interesting to see how the next few years roll out with more of us jumping out there.
Absolutely. And so you said before that brands can come to you, they can get to you through your agency, but then you can always also seek out brands. What do you look for in a brand? Like if you're looking for a new opportunity?
Yeah, good question. So for me, I take it as face value and have a look at to see what they're putting on their website, what they're putting on their social media as well. I also look for places that are starting to showcase different bodies, and they're sort of dipping their toes into that. So for me, I'll just jump straight in there and just see if there's anything that I can do. And I have been able to work with a few brands that are like that, but not only people that have got lipedema that are working with them, but also people with bigger chests, people that don't have one chin. So I just look for how they present themselves online, and if they're coming across just wholesome and just genuine, and they're for their customers. That's the main thing. I think if they're just promoting their business because they think they're the best in the world, that's all well and good, but it's the brands that stand out to me, that it's about their customer service and giving the customers the experience that they deserve. That's something that I value most in a brand.
I love that. And it can be so, the waters are a bit muddied too, because you have people out there just ticking that box. So that gives you, like, you've got to try and see through that. Like, oh, have they got just their larger body person to tick that box of inclusivity? Like, have they got me there, but they only go up to a size 18 anyway? Like, that would be something that would
Yeah.
ring alarm bells, right? Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And that's something that I think there's more companies that are jumping on the fact that, okay, the size 16 to 18 is an average woman's size body. Maybe we should have more sizes on there. So for me, even personally, without the modeling aspect of things, I wouldn't generally shop from a store that only stocks up to a size 18, because that's not where my values sit. I am all for supporting brands that support us. So those brands out there that do have up to size 26, up to size 30 are doing incredible things, and they're the companies that deserve to be seen and deserve our money.
Absolutely. We want them representing us. We want to, yeah, to support them so that they can continue to do what they're doing.
100%. Yeah, I agree.
So, when you go on shoots, are there any adjustments that need to be made to clothes, or do you let them know before the shoot of your measurements, sizes? Like, how does all of this work for you?
Yeah. Okay, so they do get my measurements beforehand, so they know what they're working with and making sure that, depending on if they're using sample stock or whatever, that they've got the right sizing. But not only have I been blessed with lipedema, but I've also been blessed with the lack of height. So big legs, short body is not the best. So they're very well aware that they will need to have adjustments on there. Generally, it is because my legs are going to be bigger. They might have to do adjustments here or there. If they do have me in a slightly bigger size, they might have to clip me at the back just at my waistline, or we have to do the whole shimmy the pants up or whatever you have to call it, just to make sure it doesn't look like it's gaping or anything like that, or at the bottom. So yeah, there's always some adjustments that are generally made on set. However, no one that I've worked with has ever had a problem with it. And I think it comes to, they've got my measurements beforehand, so they know what they're working with. They know they're working with a very short gal.
Oh, that is so good. And so I guess, yeah, if they're making adjustments, then they can make it fit to your body and make you, because you've got to feel comfortable, because that's going to show through in the photos too, right? Like if you're uncomfortable and your clothes are not fitting quite right, that's going to show through.
Yeah, 100%. And, there has been times where I've been in clothes that I'm not 100% comfortable in, and looking back on those images, I can see on my face straight away, like I'm not comfortable at all. But that's where it comes to, I'm there to do a job, but I'm also like, I shouldn't be afraid to say, hey, I'm not comfortable in this, or whatever it might be. And yeah, there's just never been an issue with that. But it's definitely like, you want to be able to feel comfortable in these clothes, because essentially you're selling them for the brand. So if you don't look comfortable, why is someone else that's going to look online going to feel comfortable in it themselves? So it's a bit of a catch-22 there.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And so how do you go with like fluctuations from your lipedema and inflammation? Like how do you handle that?
Yeah, look, it can be quite difficult. I it's it's one of those things where if I do find that I've got a bit more swelling than usual, I will give them a heads up in the morning just to let them know. Generally, it's not really been an issue. Um, my fluctuations are neither here nor there sometimes. But yeah, generally it's all good. It's just I'll give them the heads up and we'll just work around it if need be. But apart from that, it's not too much of an issue. Hopefully at the moment it stays like that.
Yeah, awesome.
Probably a lot of the clothes that you're modeling is active wear, am I right? Or are you, traversing into other like styles of clothing? Yeah.
Yeah, so at the moment, activewear and a bit of swimwear. So with swimwear, obviously don't really need to put my legs in anything, so it's not too much of an issue. But yeah, the next 12 months, I am trying to get a few more gigs within more fashion.
No, that's right. But that'll be quite interesting if you move into that aspect. And I was having a conversation and I was asked about some fashion tips, which is hilarious
Oh
for
yeah,
me. Like I don't think I'm particularly
we can't
fashionable.
win.
And I sort of the only two that came to mind were wide-legged pants and cutting in blazers so that you can fit your arms into the blazers, because usually the lining is a non-stretchy fabric, but the outer fabric can have a bit of give. And I thought, I'm not the best person to answer this question. I'd love to hear from you. What's some fashion advice for dressing our lipedema bodies?
That's a good question. So I am only recently really starting to explore what my fashion taste actually is, and where my limitations sort of sit. And I don't really want to say my limitations, but where I feel comfortable and confident in clothing. So I've actually been watching a lot of different TikTok tutorial videos of people with different size bodies, and some ladies will have bigger arms, or some ladies will have bigger chests or bigger legs. And for me, it's been really exciting to explore that. So I have been wearing a lot of wide-legged pants at the moment, but it's only because I've recently discovered that I love them. Um, and I can actually go into a store and find something that's going to fit. Another thing that I absolutely love at the moment is skirts. cargo skirts, just your like loose fitted skirts, because you've got the room still in there to be able to move your legs. And then you can pair it with so many different things. Like I've got at the moment, I've been to Cotton On, but they've got a bunch of winter stuff in, and like this material is like that cotton, but it's nice and stretchy. So it's it's firmly fitted, but I don't feel like it's suffocating me as such. So yeah, it's just, I guess, without experimenting. And sometimes you'll go into a clothing store and you'll have an absolute meltdown because you won't find something. But I feel like that's everyone. And like, having our bodies, it is difficult to find. It's also okay to have a day where you don't feel good in your skin and you don't feel good in your clothes, because it's not going to be forever. And using social media and finding women that have similar body types to you is taking a little bit of inspiration from what they're wearing, and then going on different websites or going in stores and then trying to just find those little pieces. And even if you can find 5 basic pieces that you like, you can mix and match them, and it's you can wear a different outfit every day. So if you can find a couple of different things that you feel really good in, there's no problem with experimenting with that. And we're not putting clothes on to feel skinny, we're putting clothes on to just feel comfortable and feel good in our skin. And if that comes to dressing in something that wouldn't usually wear but you kind of think's a bit funky, then that's absolutely okay. Fashion is your own self-expression, and I think that
I
finding people
think
that
what you just said
you
was so
love to look at,
incredible, that we're
take
not
inspiration.
dressing to feel skinny. And that just really, it kind of made me pause a little bit. And I can't believe how many times that I've probably looked at my cupboard and tried to dress to feel skinny. I just think that's a really important and powerful message that you've just said. But you're totally right. Grabbing inspiration from other people, even just pairing of colors, I find really interesting from the fashion community, because I would pair like for like and be quite boring. But you see people pairing interesting color combinations that work really well, but they're so diverse, and you're like, oh, I didn't think about pairing this orange with this blue, or this green with whatever. And it's quite refreshing to have a little bit more options, because I'm sure we all go into our wardrobe someday and go, we have nothing to wear, yet we have about 80 different pieces of clothing hanging up. How do you how do you approach your wardrobe in the morning? How do you dress for the day?
Okay, so it kind of depends on what I'm doing for the day. So I am very blessed to have an office job where I can dress up, but I sort of look at it as if to say I'm moving around a lot. I'm just going to be sitting at a desk all day. It's also an expression of how I'm feeling for the day. So I know I'm always in a good mood when I put green on. So I kind of just open my cupboard and just see what my eyes go to and what grabs my attention, and then I'll just go from there. I've obviously got like 3 or 4 outfits that I'm constantly got on repeat at the moment. But yeah, it kind of just it depends on how I'm feeling. And sometimes like I'll put something on and I'm like, yeah, I feel really good. And then I'll look at myself in the mirror and I'm like, oh, who dressed you this morning? But yeah, it's kind of just, yeah, just sort of not thinking about it too much. Just, I'm too tired in the morning to really have too much effort and thought into what I'm wearing.
You're right. In the morning, you're too tired and you got a lot on. You're like, look at all the things that I have to do today. What is an outfit? Um, So Shell and I have recognized recently that a lot of brands are actually using images of,
Yeah.
women with lipedema, to sell their products. Would really like to hear from you about what you perceive to be the pitfalls of the modeling industry, and if there's any limitations you have experienced in that space.
Yeah, look, I think before when I mentioned about with certain brands and things like that, there's definitely limitations that are there. It In a sense, it's like a double-edged sword, because, or I wouldn't say a double-edged sword, but um, there's pros and cons to it. Like with that industry is absolutely incredible to see the represent, absolutely amazing, because essentially it's not only women seeing you know, other women that look like them that can fit into clothes and have inspiration to look for. But it's also getting our diagnosis out there a bit more. So it's amazing to see that brands are jumping on it, because essentially, like, you've got to look at the statistics. Like, there are going to be women that need to buy clothes that have lipedema. You have a whole market there. So being able to have that on the full focus and show these women is amazing. It just sometimes it worries me that people are using these women as trends, or because they're trending, and they're using them for the wrong side of things as such. Sometimes you do see brands use these people to simply tick a box, and that's what scares me about it. But I can't really sit there and think too negatively on it, because I've really got to reflect and go, we've not had this before. We've not been accepted the way that we're getting accepted now. It's definitely, a hard, it's a little bit difficult sometimes, and there are always going to be ignorant comments out there, that people do say, why do you have a model that's not a size 6, or why do you have a model that has cellulite, or there's always going to be ignorance on there. But we've got to just look at it as the way of, this exposure is what's going to get our disease more recognized, and it's going to push us forward. So yeah, there's always going to be limitations on it. There's always going to be people that say negative things about it, but if we can keep pushing forward, that's all we could ask for, I guess.
Yeah, nice. And I guess those people that have negative comments, the advertisement is not speaking to them. They don't resonate with it, which is why they're pushing back. Whereas, you know, for somebody, like for me, to see somebody who has a body shape similar to mine, or has, imperfect skin texture or something, but wearing the clothes that I want to buy, that's so liberating for me, because I'm like, oh, that's how my body may look in this outfit, instead of seeing, a size 6 model and going, oh, well, that's really great, but I'm not going to look like that, or think I might look like that. It's this perception, this body dysmorphia that we may have when we're buying clothes. Oh, if I buy that, I'm going to look like her. And it's really not the
Yep.
case.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And that's the other thing that it comes with it as well, is the only thing that really gets under my skin are the comments that come in saying, oh, I couldn't have the confidence to wear that. That really, I don't know, it irks me for some reason. And it is a reflection on them, but at a sense, it's like those comments that come directly at me saying, like, I'm so brave to wear these clothes, or I'm confident, all this sort of stuff. It's like, why shouldn't I be? What's the difference between me or anyone else wearing these clothes? It's something that just sits with me a little bit. I'm not I don't think the comments that come in about, like, how I shouldn't be wearing this, really affect me. It just worries me when you see other women going, I don't have the confidence, or you should be brave to. We need to change that narrative of thinking. Anyone should be able to wear whatever they want, and you should be able to see models of all different shapes of sizes and not think anything different. Because at the end of the day, they're all there to get the same thing, and that's to get paid for doing a job. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's very true. And, in the modeling industry, in your industry, you guys are professionals. You actually, like, it's a craft to do what you do. And I guess with that craft also comes the craft of photography and lighting and photoshopping. So I think when it comes to having advertisements with models and making sure that their product looks the best that it can be, which may include specific kinds of lighting, specific photoshopping and smoothing and things like that. Sometimes we may feel like there needs to be some sort of disclaimer on the photo to say that it has been altered in some way, because you all, and I think we're getting better in society now that we understand that there is some of that happening. We're not ignorant to it, but it still does affect us that when we get the clothing or when we look in the mirror, we don't actually look like you are presented on these photos.
Yeah.
So what effect do you think these images have on our body image or our consumers?
Yeah, so there are a few brands that are now not photoshopping, they're not airbrushing, which is great to see, but I definitely think that there needs to be disclaimers on there, because not only are people like me
Bless
looking,
you.
going, oh, how do they look so good in that? Or, I wish I could, have that smooth skin, or like that oh my God, I'm going to, sorry. Oh, sorry. I will look at different images and
No
automatically
worries.
think, and I'm like, no, it's airbrush, but it's the younger generation that we need to think about. And there are definitely brands that are now not photoshopping, which is great to see, but there's so many brands that are still doing it. And to someone that's not been around or doesn't really know how the photos sort of work and things like that, they are going to look at those photos and think, why can't I look like that? Or why is my skin not smooth? Why does everyone have a flat stomach? Why does everyone only have one chin? So it is easy to look at an image and compare yourself. We're all guilty of doing it at one point of our life. But I do definitely think that there just needs to be disclaimers on it. And I think it's great to see when brands do behind the scenes, or they do like just real images, because it's not only women like us or just anyone like us that are looking at it, but it's for our younger generation as well, that they're so easily influenced. And even like 12, 13-year-olds with their makeup now these days. I'm like, I had the longest eyelashes, the smallest eyebrows, like everything, like, because that was the trend back then. And so you see young women now and young girls now, like, everything's online. They're trying to mimic, and it's so easy to like get caught up in that. So I definitely do feel like we need to do more to show that although we are promoting a product, not everything you see is real. And I can wholeheartedly say the image I put on my social media of my best self, I don't look like that. Half the time when I'm posting the image, I've got my hair in a messy bun. I've got no pants on. I probably haven't had a shower since
Yeah,
this
that's a really
morning.
good
Like,
point.
so
And
it's
you
it's one
just
of
got
those
me
things that
thinking
people
that
just need to
that
be
the
more
body
open about, and
dysmorphia
brands
piece
need to
isn't
be
just
more
for the
open about.
consumers, it's actually for you as a model as well. Because when you go into these jobs and you're looking fabulous, but then they take this photo of you and then they Photoshop it as well, you have then this perception of what you should look like all the time, and that's not what that's not what we look like all the time. It's similar to wearing makeup and then being comfortable not wearing makeup, that perception of ourself and putting ourselves forward. How do you handle that in this industry where you're constantly bombarded with images of your best self?
Yeah, look, it is difficult sometimes, and like I'll sometimes like try and take a photo of myself that isn't professional, and I'm like, why does my nose look like that? Why can't I have this? Why are all my angles wrong? Why can't I take a good photo of myself? So it's something that I have to remind myself every day. There's, no one's going to be perfect, and and also with our hormones, like, we also feel great at one point of our cycle, and then we feel awful the next. So it's definitely just that constant mind game. But I just sit there and remind myself that it is okay to have imperfection. And if we were perfect, like, what would be the point? Like, the reason I do model is to showcase that an average person can do this. So to get my head around, not feeling great all the time is, yeah, it definitely is a mind game, but it's just that constant reminder pushing forward. And I know that, my value doesn't determine how I look.
So we're wrapping up. We're coming to the end of our episode, sadly, but we do have. We'd like to leave our audience with one piece of advice from you. What advice would you give someone who's been newly diagnosed with lipedema?
Oh, that's a great question. Firstly, I would like to say that it is okay to try, and it is okay to feel like your world is turning upside down when it comes to that. Just sit and feel your emotions, because, although you've been given a diagnosis, this is something that you've probably been in the back of your mind for years. So it can be a blessing in disguise. But not only that, but just make sure that you're not spending so much time alone with your thoughts, because your thoughts are going to consume your mind. And it's super, super important to have people around you that support you. And if it's not personal, so if you don't feel like you've got friends or family that are around you that are supportive, then reach out to people online and join community forums and things like that to be able to read other people's stories, because that will really bring you back to understand that even though this is a very lonely disease, there are so many of us dealing with the same thing. And rolling through those emotions is only going
Very
to
cool.
get easier when you have that support system around you.
Oh, that is so important, isn't it? When we started the Lipoedema podcast, we relied on word of mouth and existing connections.
Our following has happened organically, and we are so honoured by your support.
As we learn more about the world of social media and algorithms, we have a request.
When you are listening to our podcast or watching on YouTube, let us know what you think.
Hit follow or subscribe.
Leave us a comment or write a review.
The more engagement we get, the more our message is shared.
And the greater our reach to those women suffering in silence.
Thank you for listening to the Lipoedema podcast. Lipoedema and its symptoms vary from individual to individual. The opinions and advice voiced in this podcast are of a personal nature and used for educational purposes.
Please take away from this podcast what resonates with you, and please see your GP or preferred specialist for diagnosis and healthcare. We are Shelley and Tiana from the Lipoedema podcast. Until our next episode, bye for now.